One thing that did happen during the 60s was some music of an unusual or experimental nature did get recorded and did get released. Now look at who the executives were in those companies at those times. Not hip young guys. These were cigar-chomping old guys who looked at the product that came and said, I don't know. Who knows what it is? Record it, stick it out. If it sells, all right. We were better off with those guys than we are now with the supposedly hip young executives who are making the decisions of what people should see and hear in the marketplace.
Success in the music business begins with a dream, a vision. This podcast will give you, the listener, the insight and tools to turn that vision into a reality. Meet the industry professionals who work day by day behind the scenes, helping to make those dreams come true. Welcome to the business side of music.
This is Bob Ender. You're listening to this edition of the business side of music. Interesting guest today. We actually met at the CD Baby DIY conference over the weekend here in Nashville, Tennessee, along with about 1,500 other people in the industry. He is the tech startup and co-founder of a company called Fusion Systems. We'll get into that here in a few minutes. He's also, I love this part on your bio, it says cover band frontman in Austin, Texas. So we're going to have to dig into that just a little bit. He's a pioneer in the use of software and audio monitoring and has helped hundreds of musicians hear exactly what they need to hear to perform better, which I got to tell you, there's a difference between what they want to hear and what they need to hear, right?
Absolutely.
Brandon's with us today to share some valuable information and a little-known insider secret that can help the artists get wireless in-ear monitoring at a fraction of the cost of hardware-based systems, which to me, as an old road manager, having to haul those monitor systems around, this is a blessing. Anyway, Brandon, thanks. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Bob. So good to be here.
You show up in Nashville. You're going to do this conference in front of about 1,500 or so aspiring songwriters, musicians, artists, and you have something to offer them. But let's back up a little bit. How did you create this system? You obviously saw a need, right?
That's right. So about 5 years ago, my co-founder and I, we were starting a multi-site church plant in our neighborhood in Austin, Texas. And we had some hand-me-down Avioms that we were using every week, but we were setting up and tearing down every single week, running Cat5 cables, and my co-founder was a software engineer at Dell.
Right.
And so he said, this is just digital networking. I'm sure that there's something better we can do here, especially with all these really smart devices that we already have in our pocket.
Yeah, and of course, old school monitoring systems, back in the days when I started, you took a couple aux feeds off the house board and ran them to a monitor, and you hoped you could get a mix that everybody can use. But we really have, especially with the in-ear technology that is absolutely so common now and has become very cost effective, we really, there is a need for great monitoring systems out there that just about anybody can use and can afford, right?
That's right. And being able to hear yourself, especially with in-ear monitors, just gives you so much more connected with the rest of the band. And being able to hear each other and control it in exactly the way that you want is so powerful for your performance.
Who came up with the idea? Was this you and your partner that came up with this?
That's right. So Kevin Slick, he's our CEO and my co-founder. So it was really his brainchild behind all this. But as the worship leader, as the front man of our church band, so I've really been kind of the voice of the musician in this process. And so what we've really tried to do is to develop it in a way that has the musician in mind, not necessarily for the sound engineer, but if we found that if we can make it intuitive and usable for the musician, but also, of course, at a pro audio quality for the sound guy as well.
How long did it take to develop this Audio Fusion system?
Well, Kevin's been working on this full-time as his full-time job for the last 5 years.
Oh my gosh, wow.
So I've been doing it with him about 2 years full-time, but so all through the beta testing process and through all the development of the user interface and those things, but it's been a long slog for him. So
let's talk a little bit about this system, because obviously one of the questions that comes up in the conversation is, what frustrations are musicians currently having that you guys can help solve?
Well, really the biggest challenge that folks have when it comes to in-ear monitoring, if they want to do in-ear monitoring, is the primary road barrier is the cost.
Right.
And so what we're trying to do is to give them a way to really to make in-ear monitoring affordable by using the devices that they already own. So by using the laptop and the smartphone that they already have, and utilizing that by capitalizing on the networking standards that come with Wi-Fi.
And so my question is, you're literally using the iPhone that you plug your in-ear monitors into, and that really becomes the receiver, right?
That's right. Basically turns your iPhone into a wireless body pack.
And so what's your transmitter?
So your transmitter is a Wi-Fi router that's connected to your MacBook. So the MacBook takes the audio out of the console or audio interface, and it automatically detects all the channels available from any audio source that you can connect to the Mac,
right.
And it'll package them all up and it'll broadcast it over Wi-Fi to where the musicians can not only hear it, but then they can control the volume and panning on all 16 channels.
And so I guess that's a question I asked. So you have up to 16 channels of monitoring.
That's right.
And does that work off of an interface that do you have to have like a monitor console, or what are you using to?
Well, the beauty of this system is that it'll just take the direct feed out of any digital mixer or audio interface. So we just connect to the console by USB, the same front of house console that you're normally plugging into,
right.
And we just take the digital feed off and broadcast it.
Wow, you guys really created something here.
Yeah.
And of course, let me ask you this, latency?
It's very usable. I've been using it myself for the last 2 years. There are some musicians that have played with it that can perceive the latency,
yeah.
But I mean, all of the people who have used it, find it very, very usable, especially for live performance.
Is this technology, is this something primarily for musicians, or can anybody, let's say you're a speaker at a conference, things like this, is something that you can carry this around with you?
That's right, and that's what's really nice about it is if you're trying to do in-ear monitoring, especially wireless, where you've got a whole rack worth of transmitters, and you can eliminate all that stuff. All you need is to bring with you is your MacBook and your little portable Wi-Fi router,
right.
And your iPhone, and you've got your entire monitoring system.
Is this the first stage of this that you've created?
Well, it is. I mean, the technology to be able to deliver real-time audio over Wi-Fi, that has a lot of implications.
Yeah. Okay.
And
such as?
Well, in theory, we could technically license this technology even to the instrument manufacturers themselves. And so then your keyboard could talk to your computer and your guitar could talk to your computer all wirelessly. Right. So right now we're only sending the audio in one direction from the console out to the musicians, but we could send the audio in both directions, and then you'd have a completely wireless stage.
Do any and all in-ears work with this? Because it just plugs into the headphone jack, right?
That's right, yeah. So musicians who have already invested, some of them hundreds of dollars in their custom molded in-ear monitors, they can just plug it into their iPhone now.
We're going to take a break, but when we come back, I want to dig into a couple other things here as we go down this list. Obviously the technology is changing dramatically almost every day, it seems like, when we're in this industry. And once again, I go back to the days when I started in the business, and, we had big floor monitors, some of them with 215s and a horn and, biamp systems. And if you could get past the squelch, this is the wave of the future, isn't it?
I think so. We think so, for sure. If you think about the way the recording industry, for example, has gone. It used to be you'd walk into a room and it was just wall to wall of pieces of discrete boxes.
Right.
Each of them had a purpose in the recording process. But now all of that has been distilled down to a software program or a plug-in that you can run on your laptop computer. An entire studio has been condensed down into software.
And I've noticed it too in some of the shows, the television show that my wife and I produced, our front of house engineer, he would mix the whole show from his tablet. but we still had, the traditional wood box monitors sitting on the floor or the side fills. So, yeah, there's some cool technology I want to get more into. But in the studio with us today is Brandon Leafblad. He's the software co-founder and I will say musician advocate because he created this with his company Fusion Systems. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this brand new technology that they've been working on, and it's now out there for the public consumption. And you're listening to this edition of The Business Side of Music.
Hi, this is Larry Butler, and I'm the author of the Singer-Songwriter Rulebook, and I'm here on the air on The Business Side of Music with Bob Bender, and enjoy yourself.
You're listening to The Business Side of Music.
Hi, this is Vinny Ribas, the founder of Indie Connect. Our goal is to ensure that you have the knowledge, the tools, skills, resources, and connections that you need to develop a profitable and long-lasting career in music. One way we do this is through these Business Side of Music podcasts. I'd also like to invite you to check out Indie Connect magazine, our free multimedia online publication packed with practical interviews and advice from music industry experts. Go to www.indieconnectmag.com. That's www.indieconnectmag.com. Let us walk with you and guide you every step of your musical journey.
You're listening to The Business Side of Music.
This is Bob Bender. We're back in the studio with Brandon Leafblad. He is the tech startup co-founder and entrepreneur for the company Fusion Systems. We're talking about this brand new in-ear monitoring system, wireless, I guess we should say, but it's Wi-Fi, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So we're just taking the audio directly from the console, and then we package it up into a Wi-Fi standard stream that we can send out to each of the musicians that they can receive either on an iPad or on an iPhone.
And once again, it is discrete, so they can. Is it on their phone that they can create whatever mix that they want?
That's right. So they'll receive individual channel by channel.
Up to 16?
Up to 16, okay. Yeah.
And so they can set the volumes and, the gain control, all of that.
Right. So instead of, asking the sound engineer to turn you up or to turn the bass down, you just turn yourself.
Yeah. Makes life a lot simpler. And how portable is this system?
Well, all you need is really your MacBook and a Wi-Fi router. Yeah. Bring that with you, and then of course your phone's already in your pocket.
Yeah.
So now of course there will be some venues that you would go to that may have an old analog board or may not have a digital out from that board, and so you may have to carry with you maybe an audio interface or something like that to convert your analog to digital. But
I think that technology, though, is starting to change also because, once again, dating myself, when you go back to the days when we used to have the Soundcraft consoles or the Yamaha PM1000s and the 3000s were like, wow, we're big time. We got these. But now you are seeing most of the facilities are carrying digital consoles. A lot of the sound engineer, front of house guys, monitor guys are basically carrying their setup on a thumb drive that they plug in. And this really kind of works in the same aspect, right?
Right, and it's really the connectivity of trying to connect the console to a digital audio workstation, right? A lot of people are trying to record their sessions or record their sets. And being able to connect those consoles digitally is already well on its way to being very prevalent.
Let me ask you this. Once you create a mix, let's say it's a 5-piece band going out every night and they create their mix, is that something that they can lock in, or do they have to go through a whole sound check every show?
Well, once you have played with a particular console, then if you go back and play with that same console the next time, then it'll come back right where you left it. The software actually communicates directly with the console, and each mixer that you connect with is unique. And so if you connect with a different mixer tomorrow night, you may have to go back through the process of setting those levels specifically for that console.
How does the sound quality compare with, let's say, high-end hardware systems?
It's actually really, really good. The iPhone itself has been designed from the very beginning as an iPod to deliver high-quality audio.
Miniature version.
That's right. Yeah. And so it's already delivering CD quality sound with much higher frequency ranges than any of the wireless body packs that are on the market today.
One of the things I preach a lot about, especially with my clients when we consult, is there's a thing, actually, it's on YouTube called The Distortion of Sound that Harman has put out that talks about how we've compressed music so much that we're losing the high fidelity into things. And I always recommend that people go listen to that, watch that video, because we really have compressed it so much that we're just losing the...
For sure.
Yeah. You don't have that problem here?
We don't compress anything, any of the audio. So all we're literally doing is just simply passing through what the console sends to us and then broadcasting it out.
Is there any kind of like compression or noise gate or anything built into your system? Are you taking that off the front of the console, or?
Right. We haven't built any of that in yet. That's part of some of the things that we have on our roadmap to add down the road. So currently, like I said, we're really just literally passing the audio through whatever the console sends to us. If the console is capable of applying EQ or effects or gate or limiting or any compression, all those things, then through that digital connection, then we would just simply pass it along.
Yeah.
But we're planning to build some of those capabilities into our software.
I would think it's something that they're going to be the musician, or I should say maybe the end user is going to be looking for anyway.
Yes, for sure.
And is it pretty bulletproof? If you get someone like myself who what does this button do? I mean, is there a way to save yourself at the end of the day?
It really is very intuitive, the way that the user interface has been designed and built.
So it's not like a learning curve like Pro Tools 12.
No, and we've tried to make it extremely simple, and really the key to the whole system is just getting a really, really good Wi-Fi router.
Yeah. But that's important, right?
It is. Yeah. It is. In fact, I would say at least 95% of the issues that any of our users have been them trying to use their $39 Walmart router, which we understand. I mean, you want to use the stuff that you've got first, but investing in a really good Wi-Fi router, and you'll have some excellent sound quality.
So let's talk about that for a minute, because if you're going to spend $1,000 or $2,000 on a guitar, and you're going to spend at least that on a good amplifier, some singers will spend several $100s for a good vocal mic.
Sure.
Now you've got this system, and we'll get into the pricing of this in a little bit, but you just said something I think is very important. Every component, down to the cable, should be high quality. I know from my experience, and we've noticed this with some video switching systems that now have gone wireless, that there is a latency issue because of the router, cannot keep up with the demand. Is there a particular router that you say, or what type of speed are we looking at? Or
well, we have a couple of routers that we really like, and they're probably going to range somewhere in the neighborhood of $150 to $300, depending on the number of members in your band. In other words, the number of iPhones that you're going to be trying to connect.
But doesn't that make more sense to use something like that and not have the headaches down the road?
Oh.
And you don't really have a horse in that race, do you? It's just
no. We've just tested a few that we really like, and there's a couple of brands that we list on our website that we've found that perform really well. Unfortunately, none of the Wi-Fi manufacturers list things on their specifications like jitter or compensation, those kinds of things. And so that's just, we just have to kind of test those out. But
is there any kind of a buffering issue you have to deal with typically on?
Well, some routers are better than others at delivering that.
But it's coming from the router end and not from
Correct.
Not from your software. And this is primarily software that we're talking about.
That is, we only provide the software part. In fact, our software is currently just a download from the Mac App Store. Who's
it designed for? Is it designed, you obviously, because you've mentioned churches, so it's designed for that, but it's designed for that independent musician out there.
That's right. And so while churches are already familiar with the personal monitor mixing part of the technology, a lot of churches use Avioms or Live Mix or other boxes that they keep on stage that each musician can use to mix their own. But a lot of gigging musicians aren't as familiar with that technology because most venues don't provide that. So a lot of independent artists or musicians that are performing live, they're used to the wireless body packs. They're familiar with the in-ear monitoring as a concept, but the venue is not providing personal monitor mixing. And so really who this is designed for is not only churches who want to do in-ear monitoring. Maybe they have a personal monitor mixing system, but they don't have wireless.
Right.
So it gives them the wireless aspect as well. But it's really designed for the musician who wants to have in-ear monitoring to improve their performance, but can't afford either the wireless or the personal monitor mixing aspect of the technology.
Crazy question here, but that's what I'm famous for. Range issues, I mean...
Well, that'll really be Wi-Fi router specific.
Okay, so once again, it falls into that,
Sure.
that dynamic, yeah.
But in theory, you just have the router right on stage with you,
Yeah.
and you're just creating a little network just for your band, not even connected to the internet. It's just a little local network that only has to span the width of the stage.
Well, we got some more questions when we come back. In the studio with us today, Brandon Leafblad. He's the co-founder of the company Fusion Systems, and we're going to have his information on how you can research this a little more. He's in the studio with us today. This is Bob Bender. You're listening to this edition of The Business Side of Music.
Hi, this is Michael Mott, and you're listening to The Business Side of Music with your host, Bob Bender.
You're listening to the business side of music. Next up, the Indie Artist Spotlight, brought to you by Reverb Nation.
This is Donna Herrick from the band Herrick, and we're members of Reverb Nation. Hundreds of shows a year have created our unique sound that you can hear on the new album Cotton Fields. Go to Reverb Nation, listen and download now. This is Donna Herrick from the band Herrick, and we're members of Reverb Nation.
When I was a little bitty baby, my mama would rock me. That's a lot of cotton.
You're listening to the business side of music.
This is Bob Bender. We're back in the studio with Brandon Leafblad. He is the tech startup co-founder, and I've said this before, I'll say it again, I love this, serial entrepreneur and cover band frontman, which we haven't covered, by the way, so you're not getting off that easy. Pioneer in the use of software with the company Fusion Systems. We met at the CD Baby Conference DIY workshop. It was about 1,500 up-and-coming, aspiring independent musicians there. What was the feedback like from the people that you were talking to?
The feedback of the folks who stopped by our booth and took a minute to get what we were doing was fantastic.
Yeah.
In fact, we had a number of people who stopped by and just idle curiosity and what do you guys do? And as soon as we explained that we were using your iPhone as a wireless in-ear monitoring system, I mean, it was minds blown all weekend. So it was really fun.
Yeah, and that was the one thing that intrigued me when you showed me. It's you just take your phone and plug your in-ear monitors into it and then stick it in your pocket. To me, once again, we're talking about a fraction of the cost of a hardwired system. We're also talking about a fraction of the hassle that you would have to go through.
Absolutely.
Do you see this kind of maybe getting into a major artist spectrum at some point?
It really has the potential technically to get, when you start talking about like stadium tours or, big time tours, really it's an enterprise level Wi-Fi solution that we just haven't had time yet to spec. And because we want to be able to provide a kind of a turnkey recommendation for, how do you do redundancy in a situation like that? How do you do, the kind of coverage that you would need to have for a stage of that size, those kinds of technical issues.
Do you see it expanding beyond 16 channels of use?
For sure. Yeah, we, it'll probably turn into another product with a slightly different price point, things like that, which we just haven't quite figured out all the details on yet. But 16 channels, and certainly with the way that the consoles are built, you can provide, of those 16, you can provide like sub-mixes as a single channel and things like that. So there's a lot of ways to utilize it.
So let's jump into cover band frontman. So did you start out as a musician?
I did. I've been playing acoustic guitar and lead vocals for about 15 years. In Austin, it's just kind of in everybody's blood. I moved to Austin in 2001, so I've been there for quite a while. So we started, I was one of the co-founders of a band called the Rocket Brothers, which is still a going concern today. In the early days, of course, I was the one who was out hustling gigs and, getting us opportunities to play. But as the popularity of the Rocket Brothers grew, the amount of time required to rehearse and to be good increased dramatically. And so eventually they came to me and they said, Brandon, we're gonna have to find another lead singer.
That's okay. I got more important things to do. And so then you jumped into this technology.
That's right. And so, while I was also doing a cover band, I also lead worship at my church. And so, I'm playing music every single week.
Yeah. And using this system, obviously.
That's right. Yeah. So we've been using this system ourselves for the last
more than 2 years. You've been the beta tester, is what
That's
you're
right.
saying. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've gotten a chance to play with lots of different musicians in a lot of different settings using the system. I have a student band that I mentor. So I've got middle school students and high school students using this system, and they don't think anything of just pulling their phone out and doing their mix. And they're like, well, how else would you do this?
The technology has changed. Where can people get your apps? And that's what it is that we're basically talking about here.
Yeah, so if you go to the website, audiofusionsystems.com, there will be links there to download. We have really 3 different pieces of the system: the main software that runs on the MacBook, and then the individual apps for the performer, which is the musician app, as well as another app that we call the director, which would be for the monitor engineer or the sound technician to kind of oversee the system. And those you can download just from the regular iTunes store.
And the learning curve, I'm going to assume, is pretty easy.
Very simple.
Yeah.
Very simple.
And if they have a question, they can get a hold of you through the website?
That's right. You can contact me, my last name, Leafblad, at audiofusionsystems.com. Send me an email anytime, or reach out to us on Facebook or at the website. We'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody has to get going.
And what kind of cost are we looking at?
Well, the cost is actually the best part. So it's only $100 per musician. So assuming you've already have a MacBook and an iPhone, it's $100 per musician for wireless and personal monitor mixing capability.
Wow, it's a good deal.
Yeah, it's a one-time purchase, and actually the performer app, the musician app, is a free download. Any musician can just have that on their phone. You buy the main software, what we call Soundcaster, for $99 per connection. So
very good. Brandon, thanks so much for being on the show. Appreciate it.
Bob, I sure appreciate you having me out.
Absolutely. Brandon Leafblad with audiofusionsystems.com. As a listener, you know that the Business Side of Music podcast is free, but in order to keep it running, consider becoming a patron of our show. You can do this by going to our Patreon page on our website, which is www.businesssideofmusic.com, and click on the Support the Podcast button. When you become a patron of our podcast, you'll have access to material that you won't be hearing on a regular show, insight from industry leaders, such as Brandon here, that is designed for our patron members, and have the ability to purchase the Business Side of Music merchandise that you can find on our website at a discount.
The Business Side of Music is the creation of Tom Sabella and Traci Snow and is produced by Bob Bender. Co-producer for the show is Vinny Ribas. The Business Side of Music is recorded at Music Dog Studios in Los Angeles, California and Nashville, Tennessee. Production sound design by Keith Stark. Voiceover and promo by Lisa Fuson.